Ever get that feeling like existence is just plain weird?
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're all just hanging out in some cosmic waiting room?
Definitely.
Really does make you wonder.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly common theme, actually, we see in these Enlightenment posts.
Hmm.
This sense of, like, wondering what it all means, this whole
Yeah.
being thing.
Exactly. Exactly. One post I saw even called it the human journey. Not a spiritual one necessarily, just the human journey. That really struck me.
Yeah.
Like, what's left when you strip away the spiritual labels and all that?
I think for a lot of these Redditors, it's about connecting with the shared experience of, being human.
Okay.
Regardless of what your individual beliefs are, or your background, or anything like that.
Right.
It's like, okay, we're all in this waiting room together, so
Yeah.
what are we going to do with the time we have?
Makes you think about, like, those little moments,
Oh, yeah.
right? That first sip of coffee in the morning, or the way the sunlight hits the leaves on the trees.
Absolutely.
Like, if this is our human journey,
Yeah.
maybe those moments are even more precious than we realize
Yeah, absolutely.
while we're all waiting for, whatever it is we're waiting for.
Exactly. And, that idea of shared experience, that kind of ties into another big theme
Okay.
that we see a lot, which is this illusion of separation.
Okay.
There's one post that argues that, let me see if I can get this quote right.
Sure.
Belief in separation is the root of ego and suffering.
So if we're all connected, maybe like clinging to our individual egos is what causes us to suffer.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that has huge implications for how we interact with the world around us.
It's like instead of seeing ourselves as waves, we fixate on being separate from the ocean.
Yes, exactly.
And then we wonder why we feel so out of balance.
Exactly. And, if we buy into that illusion of separation, it's easy to do what?
What's that?
It's easy to justify acting selfishly
Oh, sure.
or harming others.
Right.
Because it's like, well, they're different from me.
They're not me. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It's easier to be mean, basically.
Yeah. But if we can really, internalize this idea
Okay.
that we're all part of this interconnected web,
Okay.
our actions, I think, take on a whole new weight.
It's almost like karma has to be real then.
Right.
If we're all just like different expressions of the same thing,
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Because what you do to another, you're ultimately doing to yourself.
It's a thought-provoking way to look at it, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that even though the world can feel chaotic and random,
Oh, tell me about it.
yeah, there might be a deeper order at play here.
Okay, so we're all connected. Life's a waiting room.
Right.
Sounds kind of heavy, right?
It does. It does.
But then I found this whole thread about life being like a sandcastle or a video game. And that,
Okay.
that lightened the mood a bit for me, I gotta say.
Those metaphors are so interesting because they highlight different
They really do.
aspects of the human experience, right?
Right.
The sandcastle speaks to the impermanence of it all.
Yeah.
And the video game,
Yeah.
that brings in the element of play,
Okay.
the rules and challenges to overcome.
Right. And if we were in a video game, one user made this wild comparison to, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Andy from Toy Story.
Andy. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so Andy, he controls the toys, right?
He does. He does.
He chooses their adventures, the scary ones even.
Right. Right.
This user was saying, maybe, just maybe, we do the same thing with our own lives.
Wow. Oh.
We set ourselves up for challenges. The heartbreak, the joy, all of it.
Okay.
All part of the experience.
So are we really in control, or are we just playing out a script we wrote for ourselves?
Right.
Even the painful parts.
Yeah, even the painful parts, which is a really interesting, way to look at it.
It really is.
Yeah.
It
really is.
It makes you think.
It's mind-boggling, right?
It really is.
To think that we might actually be choosing the hard stuff, the heartbreak, the struggles.
That's a trip.
It really challenges those conventional ideas of fate versus free will, right?
Right.
Like, what are
Maybe it's not so black and white.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know? Maybe it's not either. Or
Oh.
maybe it's more like we choose the broad strokes of our life's painting, right?
Okay.
But the details, the brushstrokes,
Yeah.
those unfold in the moment.
Okay. I like that analogy. That's good.
Yeah.
But either way, we experience it all.
Right.
The good and the bad.
Exactly.
And speaking of bad, these Enlightenment folks,
Yeah.
they had a lot to say about fear, man.
Well, that's inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, fear is such a primal,
Yeah.
universal human experience.
Yeah.
Even if you're on the path to seeking enlightenment,
Right.
it's something we all have to grapple with.
Totally. Yeah. One quote I kept seeing pop up was,
What's that?
Fear is the mind killer. I think it's from Dune.
Yeah, it is. It's a classic.
It is a classic, yeah.
And it's so true. It highlights how easily fear can paralyze us.
Yeah.
Keep us small and safe in our comfort zones.
Totally.
When really, we should be out there,
Right, but there were also a lot of posts about overcoming fear.
Okay, yeah.
And not just like in that cheesy, positive vibes only kind of way either.
Thankfully,
Hmm?
right, it's much more nuanced than that.
For sure.
I think one Redditor put it,
Okay.
they compared it to learning a new skill, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, think about it. When you first start learning something new,
Okay.
like playing an instrument, let's say,
Yeah.
it can feel intimidating at first, even scary, right?
Right.
But the more you practice, the more familiar it becomes.
Right.
It's not that the fear disappears entirely,
Right.
but it loses its grip on you.
So it's less about eliminating fear and more about like changing our relationship to it.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where like mindfulness and meditation can be really helpful.
Okay.
They're like tools for training your mind
Okay.
to observe fear without getting swept away by it.
Kind of like instead of fear being the monster under the bed, it's more like, oh, there's that weird roommate again.
That's a great way to put it.
I'm just going to do my thing.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
It's about coexisting with that fear,
Right.
not letting it dictate our choices or, limit our potential.
Totally. Yeah.
But, fear isn't the only powerful force at play in our lives, right?
Oh, right. What else?
There were also a lot of really interesting conversations about love.
Okay.
And specifically, this idea of cultivating boundless love as a path to enlightenment.
Yeah, that definitely came up a lot.
Yeah.
Especially the discussions around the Karanya Metta Sutta.
Right, beautiful, right.
The Buddhist teaching on loving kindness, yeah.
Such a beautiful and profound text.
Yeah.
And it basically says that by cultivating love and compassion for all beings,
Okay.
ourselves included, which I think is an important caveat,
Right.
we start to chip away at the walls of ego and separation
Right.
that we were talking about earlier.
It's not just about, like, feeling good.
Right, not at all.
It's about putting it into practice.
Exactly.
Even when it's challenging.
100%.
Like extending kindness to those who've hurt us.
Right.
Or even just to, like, that annoying driver who cut us off this morning.
It's a practice. It's not always easy.
For sure.
But it's incredibly powerful when you can really tap into it.
Totally.
And, it's important to acknowledge
Okay.
that the journey to enlightenment
Right.
or even just to a more peaceful state of being
Right.
isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Like, there are going to be
Sure.
dark and difficult stretches, too.
Right. Like all those posts about the dark night of the soul.
Exactly.
That stuff got real.
It did.
Real deep, real fast.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
But it's also a testament, I think, to the honesty and vulnerability of this online community. They're not afraid to address the shadows,
Okay.
the tough
Yep.
questions, the messy parts of the human experience.
Because, let's be real. Toxic positivity
Right.
can be just as harmful as negativity sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like, it's important to acknowledge those difficult emotions
Yes.
and process them
Corey.
instead of just slapping a happy face on them.
Yeah, 100%.
And, sometimes those difficult emotions,
Yeah.
they lead to some
Yeah.
interesting coping mechanisms, shall we say.
Okay.
Like, remember that whole thread about
Yeah.
weed and mindfulness?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That was a fascinating juxtaposition.
It was.
You wouldn't necessarily think that those two things go together. But
Right.
the Redditors found some intriguing parallels.
Okay, I'll bite. What kind of parallels?
Okay.
Are they saying getting high is a spiritual experience now?
No, not exactly.
It's more about, that heightened awareness that both states can bring.
Oh.
Think about it. When you're high, you might notice things that you would normally.
Okay.
Colors seem more vibrant.
Right.
The sounds more intense.
Yeah.
Even the most mundane objects,
Right.
they just become fascinating.
They do, yeah. It's like your senses are turned up to 11.
Exactly. Yeah. And in a way,
Okay.
mindfulness can have a similar effect.
Okay.
Though obviously through different means.
Okay, yeah.
It's about tuning into the present moment,
Right.
paying attention to your senses
Mm-hmm.
without judgment.
Okay.
Really like appreciating the richness of experience that's always available to us,
Right.
but often, just gets drowned out by, the chatter of our minds and
The
everything.
monkey mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
All that stuff, the noise.
So whether it's through meditation
Yeah.
or, certain herbal enhancements,
It's all about really experiencing reality.
I think that's a great way to put it.
You're not escaping it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which actually speaks to this whole idea that,
What's that?
enlightenment or truth. It's
Yeah.
not something you can just,
Right.
read about in a book,
Exactly.
Like one Redditor said,
Yeah.
truth can't be spoken, only pointed to.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
It's about direct experience, not blind faith.
exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of our deep dives too, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not here to give you all the answers.
Right. We're just two people.
We're just exploring these ideas together.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully encouraging people to think critically
Right.
and draw their own conclusions.
For sure.
Exactly. And speaking of big questions,
Okay.
the one final post I wanted to share, it asked this really thought-provoking question. It said, what do you do to raise the level of consciousness on the planet?
Wow.
Right?
That's a big one.
It's a big one, right?
Hmm.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own
Totally.
personal journeys, our own little bubbles.
Right.
But ultimately we're all in this together, right?
We are.
So
Yeah.
what can we each do to make the world a little brighter, a little more aware?
It's a question worth pondering for sure.
It is.
And it's really encouraging to see so many people,
Yeah.
on that same wavelength,
Totally.
searching for meaning, searching for connection,
Yeah.
even in the depths of Reddit. You know what I mean?
You know what? It's we're all on this collective journey of waking up. Even if we stumble around in the dark sometimes.
Yeah, we're all figuring it out as we go.
Which actually reminds me of one last thought-provoking nugget from our enlightenment adventure.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so they were saying, if enlightenment is about being fully present,
Okay.
right, and memory is inherently tied to the past,
Right.
how do those two things coexist?
That is the question.
Can we truly be present if we're constantly being pulled back into the past by our memories?
Right.
And I don't know, it's something I've been kind of wrestling with,
Yeah, I feel that.
ever since I read that post.
It's a deep one for sure.
Yeah, it really got me thinking.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to
Okay.
maybe wrap up today's deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
Leave our listeners with that
Right.
that thought to ponder.
As always, a huge thank you to you for
Oh, of course.
joining me on this deep dive into the minds of Reddit's enlightenment seekers.
It's always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening,
Yes.
until next time,
Yeah.
keep those existential conversations flowing.
Absolutely.